And we are live. I got coffee this morning, and they do, instead of Monopoly, they do. Oh, you can't see.
No, I can see it.
See if it. Did it show it? It showed.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Instead of Monopoly, it's Uno. This is Hungry Jack's. If the logo looks familiar, it's because Australia doesn't have Burger King.
It looks just like
I think
it.
it's some other brand. So this is Burger King in Australia, and they got some pretty dope stuff on their menu that's not here. They have like a pork belly burger. Over here, every restaurant has something barbecue Hawaiian. So I think they have a barbecue Hawaiian burger.
Yeah.
They're obsessed with barbecue pineapples. I thought there'd be avocado and everything, and there's a lot of avocado here, but there's a lot of every restaurant. It's really weird. Has a barbecue burger with pineapple on it, and it's a good combination. It's just kind of weird, but yeah. So, Hungry Jack's, and the McDonald's they call Macca's, Maccas.
Is it
because
it's still McDonald's, but
it's
they
actually McDonald's?
Okay.
Yeah, it's McDonald's, but everybody just calls it
It's like
Macca's
they call it
because
Akadaka over there too, right?
yeah, ACDC, yep, Akadeka, yeah, which I think is awesome.
Right, aluminium.
Yeah, well, I think that's just Britishness in general, that kind of thing. But yeah, they tend to short a lot of words like avo, and toast. You know, it's like I didn't know that avocado took that long to say. But anyway, everybody, welcome to VM Live. My name is Jack Rollins, and I am your host. And with me, as always, man, myth, legend, half decent poker player, good friend, founder of VM, world traveler. Was that all of them?
Old guy losing his hair.
Okay, I'll add that too. Old guy losing his hair. Mr. Jeffrey Hoffman, what's going on, dude?
What's up, man? It's nice to talk with you. This is like a good hangout, chill session, kind of loosey-goosey this week, I think. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. My week so far has been been weird. So, but I'm doing pretty good.
Do you still have your roller coaster drawing from yesterday's live talk with Weston?
I threw it out. He asked me if you could draw your week if you could draw your week as a roller coaster, what would your week look like? And that's one of his "Let's Get Real, Bro" cards. And yeah, I think people were about to lose their lunch on my roller coaster.
For those of you who weren't able to tune in live, Jeff did a live talk on the server. We do live talks with professionals, and this is kind of VM Live's actually kind of a companion to those. But this was from a gentleman who created a kind of a card game called Let's Get Real, Bro, and it's kind of in the vein of Apples to Apples and Cards Against Humanity, where you flip out a card, except the whole kind of purpose behind it is to get people, specifically men. It's catered towards men, but anybody can participate. But it's designed to get men to open up about their mental health, their week, just the things going on in their lives. And we'll have that posted here in the next couple of days. I think it's really interesting because it's so kind of aligned with what we're doing. We're providing the space, and it's like he's providing the prompts almost to get people talking. I obviously listened in. I produced the show, so I'm usually there anyway. And it was interesting when you guys started to talk about the cards specifically, not just towards the end where he asked you a couple of questions on the cards, but when he'd pull out a question on and say, for example, this, and it got into this almost philosophical discussion about where you're at with mental health and where that conversation could go. And as somebody who wasn't participating in the conversation, what I heard were basically, because you hadn't really met Weston ahead of time, besides swapping emails about the show. To hear you guys open up and start to have deep conversations, and you're two complete strangers. You're doing it in a weird, heightened environment where there's cameras and microphones and all that kind of stuff. But you guys were able to kind of kind of get deep a couple of times. And I found that, just interesting from like an outside perspective.
Yeah, I was surprised by it because, when I talked to him, it's to understand kind of how it works, what it's about, and all, where it came from and stuff. And then, VM, we're about making ourselves vulnerable. And I was like, what? I should ask him to ask me some questions. And, and within, it was specific enough that it got me to open up, and I stopped thinking about I'm answering a question and more of like, wait a minute, that's a good way to think about this. And before you knew it, I felt like I was just like, I don't know, a friend of his, and we were chatting about stuff, and it gave, I guess, much like what we do. If I was sitting next to you on a bus or across from you at a dinner table and said, what do you think about this? It's very me against you is not a good way to put it, but me directing something towards you. But if there's a game or there's a space, for people to talk, then it's like a third party that, I don't know, I think it softens the approach. It makes it easier to talk to each other, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I also liked how it went into, he asked a question about like, when do you feel like you should, when do you feel like it should, you should do something.
Yeah.
And then like, why do you, do you think it's society? Do you, like, where does that pressure? And you took it off. And like, I almost wanted to jump in because I'm like, you took it off in this direction that was, it was valid. It was interesting and stuff, but it was like, what? Because like in my head, when I think of should, you see all that stuff on social media and they say, cut that word out, should, and there's guilt with should. I don't want to do it, And I thought that's where the conversation was going to go, and you veered it off somewhere else. And it wasn't bad at all. It was interesting. And I think that, that also then, had I been part of the conversation, would have, brought in different perspectives and different kind of viewpoints on that kind of stuff that you and I may have never had. And we're fairly close, so we may not have ever had that specific conversation, and it provided me with a little bit more insight on kind of how your brain operates a little bit, which I think is really important in a relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point, because there's a little piece of drawn art behind my laptop, and I'm looking at it. It reminds me of like a Rorschach test where, if you and I can see the same thing for years, and then I ask you about it, you're like, well, that's always been a bust to me. I'm like, wait, what? And it's, I think knowing how your brain works, I can see how it would breed closeness to have questions like that. And actually some of the, every day when Nako asks his question, it's same kind of sentiment where, what was his today? What's something that's about to get better for you? That was what he asked today. But he has things that, they're pretty open-ended. So it really gets you thinking.
Where does he get his question? I don't know. And that's the best thing about Dude, him is that
guy.
I don't know if he bought like a book of like 1,000 questions to ask random people or something like that. But the thing that makes it so interesting with those conversations is he doesn't ask a question and bounce, which by the way is something you were like notorious for in the beginning of the server.
I was,
but he doesn't do that. He asks a question and then follows up with every single person who answers. And if there's, if he can tell that the conversation is open to develop past that, and so, for especially now that I'm on a different time zone or in a different time zone than you guys, I get to see the conversations after they've developed and to see, somebody framing this one little question and then the kind of path it takes, where you wouldn't, if you asked the question and then saw 20 minutes later where the conversation was, you'd have no idea how that happened. But he's just masterful, and it's not because he's an amazing interviewer or has training and that kind of stuff. He's just genuinely curious and wants to know what you know, he wants to know what your thoughts are on those things.
Yeah.
And so he picks out these little,
he's genuinely interested. It makes me the imagery that just came to mind was like, who's a person that can meet 1,000 people, but in each person they have that genuine interest. In the first person I thought of was Santa. I'm like, because you're that. Like, I just feel so important. I'm the only person in this room when I'm with this person. He makes you feel seen, and like he's curious about what you're up to. You know? Yeah. And probably one of the least judgmental people I've ever met. I mean,
you feel comfortable. I did notice something earlier, though. Within the span of, I think it was 3.5 minutes, you brought up buses twice.
Really?
Is there something? Yeah. You talked about it, right? Talking to somebody on the bus, and then a Rorschach picture of a bus, and I'm not huge on psychology. You know, I don't know all this stuff, but
what the hell?
If you see a bus on a Rorschach test, that might mean something.
Yeah, it's probably not a Rorschach test. It's probably just a square. I don't know why I would have.
Or just a picture of a bus. Can you pull it out? Can we see it? Or is it? Yeah, I want to see it.
It's one of those like color things you color in.
Oh, it looks like it kind of reminds me of the spiralgrams that we used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
Where you'd like do the pen, and I wonder if they still make
with
those.
Like the 4-colored pen. No, this is one of those like color in mandala things that my daughter does to soothe herself, and she painted it or drew it for me, and I just hung it up behind my laptop.
So she drew that?
Well, no, I'm sorry. She colored it in.
Oh, yeah, okay. Is that so? That's like the adult coloring books, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I haven't gotten into that.
I haven't either. I know some people that do. They just find it very soothing. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out. Some of those more intricate ones, I feel like that would drive me nuts more than be soothing to me. You know what I mean? I think that there's too many little things for these big sausage fingers to try to end up getting mad.
You know what I just thought of was, I'm trying to build my first cabinet right now, and I was thinking that this mandala coloring thing, you have to focus very carefully, you know. And what I like about when I do gardening or woodwork is that my brain is all the loose ends that are typically, they're really sharp and they point back at me. They're like when I'm alone with my thoughts too long, it's not good. So, but these things like make me focus. But then I was thinking that with woodworking today, I was using one of those dado blades. It's like 1/2 inch wide. Oh my God. Like the piece got loose because I was cutting, I'm trying to cut the faces for the cabinet now, and so I have to make a slot. And I was like, if my finger slips, it's gone. Like it's just like, so it's a little bit different than a mandala, but I like the way it makes my brain, it ties it up. You know what I mean? Like it makes me focus.
In fact, you could say it sands off those sharp edges that you
like the round parts of a bus. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know where that came from.
I don't either. Because you guys don't, I mean, you're in Rochester. You guys don't have like a big, like you don't take the bus anywhere.
I don't.
So it's not like it's something
this is a school bus that comes down every day, but that's, that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me, so yesterday, while the live talk was going on, there was carpet being installed here. And obviously, you know that because you could hear it. I was talking to the carpet guys while we were here. And so it was in this room. So I had to remove everything from this room, or we had to. It wasn't just me, but we had to remove everything from this room, and I had to go sit up in a different room. And when I came back in here, I had to obviously set up all the computers and the webcams and the mixer and all that kind of stuff. And you were talking about things that kind of not distract you, but kind of focus your attention elsewhere and allow you to kind of live. I think it's more or less like living in the present for a little bit, and not dwelling on those other things that are constantly kind of there, and putting everything back together. Like for me, I love doing that. It can be frustrating, but it's a puzzle. And with a lot of this stuff, it's a puzzle that there is no specific solution, because it's all feng shui, and is the cord long enough, is kind of the biggest.
Yeah.
But one of the things I want to do here, because this is just a table that my partner's father built, and it's a nice, sturdy, like good table. I'm kind of about cords everywhere. I hate cords being everywhere. Yeah, and people say, "Oh, go wireless," but like with certain things, it's better to have that cord in. It's just kind of a old school, broadcasting thing that if you can go with a wire, go with a wire.
Yeah.
And so to try to alleviate some of that stuff yesterday, instead of eventually I'm gonna get like the under the table things that you put up, and you can get like trays and things that you put in, so you can have your your blocks, because like my computer charger block's like this big. I mean, it's massive. But if you look under the table now, there's just like duct tape everywhere, just like holding all these cords up. It's insane. Like it looks crazy, but then you only see a couple coming down.
That.
And just being able to look at the table and see but that's a puzzle, because you get underneath the table and okay, I have this length of cord. I have to go from here to here. How do I hide it without having it be like just absolute insanity, or like a fire hazard, or something like that. And so I find it's almost meditative, I would say. And I'm lucky, like you, with the woodworking. I do enjoy woodworking, not to the extent that you do. I don't have the equipment, and I don't have the knowledge either. But for me, I think I'm lucky that my job allows me to kind of zone out and almost, when I'm really creating something, not when I'm just, slapping an intro on, cutting out some ums and then sending it back. That's not. But when I'm really creating, a piece of art, and I consider every episode, every voiceover, all that is, it may be short form art, it may not be high art, but it's all art. There's something. It's media, which by definition is art. And it feels like you're painting a picture in a way, because there's nothing. There's a blank canvas, and I'm putting these different things in. And I liken it to watercolors a lot of times, because when people say, "Well, hey, there's a background noise, can you remove that?" I'm like, "Well, think watercolors. I can't remove red without it, because they all blend. I can't remove that without affecting the blues or the whatever a little bit, the stuff that's around." But yeah, there's something meditative and peaceful, and I'm incredibly lucky that I'm able to do that and then get paid for it. Although I think you could get paid for the work you do. I mean, I've seen that cabinet that you've built so far, and it's got I can't remember what they're called, but they're like the no slam.
Oh yeah, the soft close drawers.
Oh my gosh! Like I've seen that video of you and it just
I would love that so much. I think I would love that to have that be my full-time job. It's not out of the question for me to go that direction. I think all the stuff that I do now, and in the last few years, has been, where can I take my life next? And it like my side hobbies of hydroponics or woodworking or even VM, I wouldn't call it a hobby. It's like more of a, I don't know, it's a passion that we're doing here. These are all things that could go someplace, that could take my life in a different direction. But that would be fun. I would do that, I think. Because that's what I was going to say is, I'm sure you've heard of the concept of flow. There's a book. I don't.
Oh yeah.
And I like the idea, because it's like it's the sweet spot between what's challenging and what you're good at. Because if you're too good at it, it's not challenging. But then there's a balance. So I think getting in the zone just feels good.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, now that we're in the zone, we're going to go to a commercial break and mess that up. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes. we were talking about flow, and I agree with that kind of flow state that you can get into. It's a rhythm. It's a you're in the moment. It's enlightenment. I'm trying to think of the phrase in Buddhism, but yeah, I hate all of those guys, those business guys that talk about that stuff. I just, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, you made a face when I brought that up. Like, that didn't.
Was it Tim Ferriss and all of them? I have nothing against them. I think they're wonderful. Like, they do what they do, and it's interesting. It's everybody who talks about them, and I've had clients who wanted to be Tim Ferriss, and so they would do their little business podcast, and it was all like, well, Tim Ferriss said, and then they would talk, and it was just, oh my God, I don't want to hear your crappy version of it. I'm just going to listen to him, and so it was just, for years, it was just constant. He's the big one. And then there's another guy, I can't remember his name, but he does, Simon Sinek, I think it is. Yeah. With Find Your Why or whatever, which is a good premise.
It's like the thesis of this, and the thesis of what they're saying is very true, but they've made a career out of it. I still, there's that book by Marie Kondo. I don't know. Where you throw out things and only keep the things that spark joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can the book be longer than that? I don't know.
Well, what do you do with the book when you're done with it? I mean,
throw it out.
What if I hated it? She's fine with that, because then instead of giving it to somebody else, I'd have to recommend it, and they'd have to buy it.
I mean, and I haven't read it, so I'd probably okay.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, I think some of these people take things to extremes, and sometimes you have to get your point across. But I'm going from one place that had, like, when I was home, there's a ton of stuff, and just like an ungodly amount of stuff. And then coming here where everything is, like, at least especially on my end, is like stripped down. It's bare bones, to see that and to see less stuff. My partner's definitely more of a minimalist when it comes to, and you know what? It's nice. You know what I mean? Like, you don't feel surrounded constantly by shit.
I love it. Like, I love that minimalist.
So I get that.
Like, I mean, I just sent you the picture yesterday of my bedroom now. It's very simple, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Although the giant mirrors on the ceiling and the cameras, all the different cameras and stuff, that was actually pretty impressive.
I mean, there's not much beyond that in the room. So it's very simple.
No, I mean,
it's minimalist, but it, with the zoom, you can really just focus on what you need to focus on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I liked how you got all the wires and everything behind the mirrors and all that.
Yeah, I tried for wireless, but just clean. With all the bandwidth constraints.
No, yeah, that's a problem.
It pays the bills, though, Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. What was it, Simon? Yeah, with the Find the Why. He's got 15 different books of it. It would make a great TED Talk, and I'm sure there is I'm sure he did a TED Talk, because everybody does a TED Talk now. But the book itself was just it was ungodly long for what the point was. Like, the point was, figure out don't just come up with the product. Like, have the passion behind it. Why do you do this? Why do you sell this? And he talked about, like, Apple, and when you start haggling down on pricing, then there's an issue. And it makes sense, because if you see these top lifestyle brands, they don't advertise, or if they do, they don't advertise necessarily even the product. You don't see iPhone commercials where they're talking about the bits and pieces and then how much it costs.
That's
true.
You
don't see that.
You just see people dancing, and they all look. Have they? The brand is very present, but not the device itself.
Yeah, and that's how you get customer, like, real loyalty. Most people who are Apple users are hardcore Apple users. and it's so like that's it, and then provide some examples. I've never seen a Lamborghini commercial. I've never seen a Rolls Royce commercial. Like those kind of like at all, because they don't need to. But it was like 300 pages of that, and so after a while, you're like, all right, I get it. You're wise to make money by the word, so you got to fill that out.
Yeah.
Speaking of TED Talks, though, you're going to be doing a talk here, aren't you?
Yeah, in a couple weeks.
Okay.
At the Rochester Lilac Festival, which is one of Rochester's biggest festivals. But yeah, I was invited to speak at their Health and Wellness Expo. So I'm a combination of excited and nervous, honored, because when I look at where I've come from, some of the guys that come in, God, there's a guy, without mentioning his username, not that his username would give away anything, but he's literally lost. He was kicked out of his house today, and I haven't heard back from him. I tried to check in on him, but there was days that I barely made it to work because I was hungover, and it was a terrible place to be, and I'm not in that place anymore. I have bad days, but nothing like that. And to be able to get up and share my story and what VM is all about, and to offer hope, and not just hope, but like to let people know that this is a thing. Like I think men's mental health, it's on the back burner, it's on the outside, it's on the fringes. It's not, there's parts of what we struggle with that are kind of they're real enough to make us want to kill ourselves. That's why our suicide rate is so high. And to be able to bring that topic up to people who might not even know about it. You know what I mean? Like there's people that like, oh, my husband's fine, or my boyfriend, my son is totally fine. They're not, or they might not be. I can't say they're not, but we need the conversation to start. And so if I can keep that passion and let my nerves go to the side, then I'm really excited about it, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's going to be awesome. What's the date specifically? Do you know yet?
It's May 14th or 15th.
Okay.
I haven't been given the exact time yet, but
okay, cool.
Rochester, New York.
We'll get that information out for the folks in Rochester. I know we have some people out there. And for more information on the Lilac Festival itself, go to rochesterevents.com/lilac-festival. That's rochesterevents.com/lilac-festival. Are you guys big on lilacs out there?
There's a hill that is beautiful. It's just it's like a half an acre of just pure lilacs, and there's a couple weeks or a month or so right around the festival. Obviously, you walk in the field and it just smells gorgeous. It smells phenomenal. I don't know why. I have no idea why. It's like I'm imagining like the Eastmans or like whoever else was from Rochester had this as part of their estate, and there was lilac. I don't know why. I really don't know why. It's like a big thing here, but there's a festival. It's like a carnival arts health thing, that's but yeah.
Cool. All right, yeah, I'm looking through it right now. You are not on there yet, but you will be.
There's a health. Actually, I am. There's a health and wellness. Like there's, if you navigate through there somewhere. I'm at the
Lilac Health and Wellness Experience.
Go to the bottom.
I don't see the logo.
And my face is on there somewhere. Unless they took it.
Oh, is it really? Let me see. Yeah, they removed it.
Yeah, they're like...
Oh, the Health and Wellness Expo. My gosh, there's like 18 different things.
Yeah. I'm right after Simon Sinek.
Oh, okay. Oh, there he is at the very bottom. Jeff Hoffman.
That's right. I'm right under the trademark logo. Kind of, it's like 2-point font.
Yeah, they pushed you off to the side.
It's like if there's time,
yeah.
we'll keep the mics on long enough that.
Yeah. We should see if we can record that thing, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for getting the word out and for discussing things outside of the server. I think in the server, especially when people come in, they see that, you know, it's a community and that it's an open community, and that it's a, you know, we strive to separate ourselves from some of the other, some of them, most of them probably aren't even organizations, but, you know, you see the people talking about, you know, men's mental health, a lot of them talking about it like on TikTok, and it's like there's jokes of, you know, like a dude in his car just ripping on women, or these two dudes you know, on a podcast very similar to us, and they're giving their big, you know, push, and it's about what they don't understand and all that kind of stuff. And while in those cases it's almost funny, there's an element of vindictiveness, or maybe hate, maybe pushing. I'm trying to think of the phrase or how to word it, but almost like an us versus them kind of thing.
With men's mental health, like versus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like men's mental health versus women's mental health, you know, trans people's mental health and the stuff that they have to go through. And it's very difficult to discuss our problems or our viewpoints, or, you know, just the things that affect us, without going down that pathway. Like it's a slippery slope, but it's an easy ride to get on, to sit there and say, you don't understand. And, you know, that's the thing I'm most proud of, and the thing I'm most protective of here, is that there are no grandiose statements. You know, it's not us versus anyone. You know, it's just discussions about the things that we're going through. And if you were to go into the server, and because of some of the stuff that happened recently, we did look some of this stuff up just to make sure, you know, what was the word or the phrase that we searched?
Which of the ones we
for like grand statements, over, for when you make a statement like about everybody, like all women, you know, I'm blanking right now because
I'm
it's
forgetting
10
the
o'clock in the
context
morning for me.
specifically.
Like mass generalizations or overgeneralizations, generalizations. So we looked up all the different variations of those kind of phrases to see, and anytime it did, either you or me or Bob or one of our other kind of staff, you know, jumped in and said, "Hey, we don't talk about that."
You mean look up? You look in the server,
in the server
the history
itself.
of the dialogue. Sorry. Yes. All over the place. Yeah.
And what I found interesting with a lot of that is that you'll get someone on, they'll post some Reddit, the occasional TikTok, something like that. That'll be about how, usually, let's be honest, women are terrible and they don't understand what it's like to be a man and all that kind of stuff. Which, if you're trying, it's just as an aside, if you're trying to explain your situation, telling everyone that one of the other genders is terrible and they're all, you know, that's going to shut them down. You know, like if you, and it took me a while to learn that, you know, with conversations with women in my life, that it was like, hey, look, if you make these kind of statements, they're going to shut down and they're going to be like, well, you know, here's what I have to go through. And you're like, okay, yeah, then you're comparing, and that's dangerous. But when we've talked to them, and they start with that, what we've found is that there's one of two ways, at least in my opinion. I might be completely wrong, but there's one of two ways the conversation goes. One, they don't have that experience. They don't have any experience when it comes to those, you know, usually dating, relationships, that kind of stuff. And so they're going into it with these kind of thoughts, and they're allowing experiences that aren't their own, they're kind of taking them on as if they are their own. And then they say, well, we're venting. And it's like, well, no, venting is personal. You know, if somebody comes, it's a weird line, but it's like if somebody comes onto the server and says, Jeff, you not right now, you're not actually going through a breakup, but you're going through a breakup and you're like, I effing hate women.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mean that.
Right.
You're going to follow that up with, this is what happened today,
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a venting, whereas it seems like some of the conversations that get started, one of the tracks they go, they're not venting. They're just, what it really is there's no experience, no anything. It's hate.
Yeah. Yeah. When they start, and I say they, I mean, because you're right. There's when new people join, it's like joining any new crowd. You kind of want to get your bearings about what people like, and people will spout, and then you're right, they'll come in with like a Reddit post or something like that. Well, I read this thing that says all women that do this thing, and so doesn't that suck that all women do that thing? Like, well, what's been your experience? Like, why? What makes you post that? And that's something that we press on, is not what the generalization is, but like, why would you post that? What's been your experience? And that kind of, and you're right, then their dialogue goes, they get more defensive at times, but it's hard, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there, because we've had people join that have made those generalizations, and they kind of come in guns a-blazing, and they kind of expect a lot of solidarity. And then some people have softened, but I think that's where there's so much opportunity for us to make a difference with people, to slowly take away those, I don't know, prejudices or, biases.
Prejudices in a lot of ways, biases. Yeah. The other kind of half of the conversation that I see, or the other track that goes down, is that the guys will kind of chip away at him a little bit, asking questions, and why, and then usually it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours later, they finally say the statement of like what's actually bothering them.
Yes,
and it has nothing to do generally with that, and it's like, dude, that, and it's just worth it when we get to that point. And it's hard for a lot of guys, a lot of people, to open up and to get to the part, but that's the nice thing when we're able to then whittle down and see, okay, so this is the thing that, like I said, a lot of times has nothing to do with the crap you posted. This is, there was one guy, he was yelling about women, and then he was mad at his dad, and it's, we're going to continue this part of the conversation. I really want to keep going on this, but we do have to go to break, so we'll be right back. We have a couple of announcements, as always. VM holds weekly voice chat hangouts on Mondays at 7 p.m. It's a great way for men to connect on something other than via text. The gamer section holds weekly hangouts on Fridays at 9 p.m. Come hang out, play games, stream, and or talk about games with your fellow VM gamers. And I said games, we mean like video games. And as always, VM Live is on Thursdays at 8 p.m. If you join the server, you can take part in the show via the chat text and all of that kind of stuff. And as a reminder, all times are Eastern, and all events take place on the Visible Man Discord server. The link for that will be in the show notes. I'm just going to stretch out real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I just got like a weird thing going on.
It's 10 a.m.
I think it's
right
called.
there?
Yeah, we went to bed last night at 11, which is weird for me because I'm so used to having
early for you.
Set bedtime. Yeah. But here, I remember one of the first nights it was like 9:30. Are you kidding me? No.
Is that what?
But now I'm so used to it.
Is that typical there? 9:30, 10?
Yeah, 10 usually. I'm 9 for the 30, kind of for the kids.
Okay.
And then 10,
Your
by
sleep,
the time we're all done.
it seems more regular now.
Oh, for sure.
It's awesome.
And part of that is because I'm not staying up to wake up and talk to and that kind of stuff. Somebody who lives on the other side of the world.
Yeah. That helps.
But it was, like 11 o'clock. I'm like, I was zonked. I was ready. But anyway, as we were kind of discussing specifically some of the tracks that people like go down when they make these grandiose statements.
Yeah.
And finally whittling it down to what's actually bothering them is awesome, because then we get to actually try to help or discuss it or whatever. And I think the reason that, at least publicly, why that is useful and important, and what I think separates us from a lot of the other, I'd say dangerous, at times hateful groups, besides the fact that we're not, hateful, is that we don't talk about the experiences of all men. We don't talk about what all women or all trans people do. We talk about our specific experiences, whether it be something small, on the scale of things that can be like depressing, down to divorces and deaths and those kind of things. And it's a challenge for me to try to, come up with content to put out into the world that people are going to see, because you're fighting that. Anytime somebody sees men's mental health, it's just those losers again. And I think it's going to be good, this kind of talk that you're going to do, because it'll be an example. It'll be a way for you to kind of have those discussions, or at least those, because it's not a discussion. You're just the only one doing the talking. But it'll be nice to be able to do that, because it's long form. There's a chance for you to open up about your stuff and not just 30 seconds or less tell us what you're about, And we have another thing coming up. We have the comedy club stuff coming up.
That's right.
Do you remember the date for that?
July 24th, Sunday, July 24th at 7 p.m. at Comedy at the Carlson in Rochester. Yeah, I'm excited. We got to start getting the word out.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too. And it stinks because I'm most likely not going to be there. We actually, I think I told you about this yesterday, Jeff. We went to extend my visitor visa out here for a little bit longer. So if that goes through, I definitely will not be there. But it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and you're working with some vendors and all sorts of stuff, and it's a fundraiser for VM specifically. I kind of come from some not-for-profit work and that kind of stuff. I've done that, and I know the shtick when it comes to not having a lot of income, and a lot of money coming in, and this money, anything that we get at this point, it's not going in anyone's pockets. It goes to the server costs and the production costs and website costs, all those kind of things. You're using and then outreach, which we're just starting to do now that the COVID world has shrunken a little bit, and we're able to actually go out and do stuff. Every dollar that's coming in is then being used for, Visible Man's growth. And I think that's important to state that, you're not using any of that money personally. I'm not seeing a dollar of anything that comes in. You have to be really good with that kind of stuff. And we have been, and we will continue to be. So, that is the, that'll be on, you said July 24th.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you go to the Comedy at the Carlson website, it is up. And then we're working on, when we launch the official stuff for it, we'll have information on our website about it as well, and on social media and all that jazz. It's funny. And I think we're going to talk about this, if not next week, the week after, because I think Admin Bob's not going to be here again next week.
Yeah.
But one of the things I just thought we maybe should touch on it lightly, that we were going to discuss in one of these upcoming episodes is burnout. And it was kind of funny because last week we didn't have a show.
It is funny, yeah.
And for the first time, we didn't have a show because we were all kind of like, you know what? No.
I'm kind of burned out.
Yeah. And I think part of that is because of some of the events that have happened over the last month and a half, 2 months, with a couple of kind of high profile people up and leaving and doing it in and I'm just going to be honest, a very hurtful way. And then, things have been rocky all over. You're living life and there's, just crap that happens all the time. And then, me being here and not being able to be as accessible, I think is the phrase as I once was, I think that kind of, it seemed like things kind of drifted there for a minute. And we all sat down and had a talk about it. A nice, probably, I think it was like 3 hours that we were on the phone.
It was.
Time all talking
it was a
about
Sunday night. We talked for like 3 hours. Yeah. It was. It has been. I think since just over the last couple of months, like you said, you've relocated there, so the time zone shifting is challenge. It has affected the way that we communicate.
Yeah.
And the I don't want to say I'm surprised by how those change in relationships, the people that left, affected me. But I guess I'm kind of surprised because I was hurt by it and I was affected by it. But I think the last couple months have just kind of taken a toll.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough, and I like the way you phrased it as far as, our relationship. When it comes to like VM Live, it was, scheduled. What did you say? It was scheduled vulnerability, I think.
It was almost like it is a bit like a therapy session, a little bit, because I know when I schedule something with my therapist, like I could go in and talk about the weather, but why am I there? I'm there to work on myself. And when we talk about stuff, we're ourselves, we're real, we're honest. And that it does come at an emotional price. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did notice after we had that talk and a little bit this week, even with the other stuff going on in our personal lives, and nothing crazy, by the way. It's just, we have lives, things happen. It feels like there's been a little bit of a renewed energy, as far as on the server and on the outreach and the things. It's tough. And I remember early on when it was, I think there's probably like 10 guys on the server. You were on there constantly and trying to, spur the conversation forward. Yeah. And you'd just, open up. And I remember messaging you like, Jeff, just dial it back, man. You're going to burn out.
And I did. I totally did. Yeah, I did.
And it's tough, but it's really nice to see that, like, even during the show itself, I've, when I'm over here and I'm looking down, I'm checking the server and that kind of stuff. So I'm not just ignoring you. But even while, the show's been on, to see the server moving and to see people having conversations and that kind of stuff, independent of us, is such a cool thing to see other people. And these aren't like mod staff or anything that's kind of their job. These are, just Joe Schmo, being there for people and kind of taking that torch on. it kind of reinvigorates, at least for me, some of that energy, because I know that, the people that are there get it, and we're not herding cats, trying to talk about men's mental health and these kind of things. Like, they're in there and they're getting it, and there are people that are there for each other. We had a couple people talking about friendships and that kind of stuff today, and mainly in-person friendships and support systems. But that gentleman who is now homeless, he came in, and I guess this is a benefit of me being awake when everybody's asleep, is that if something happens at night, it's 2:00 in the afternoon for me. There's been a downward spiral over the last week, and things he couldn't control, things that weren't his fault, just stuff happening. And, to see that he could come on and feel open to be able to say what he wanted to say and be honest and vent, and to know that he was going to get response and he was going to get support. When I think of a lot of what I considered to be friendships before VM, I don't know how many of those people, and this isn't a commentary on who they are as human beings or anything, but I don't know how many of those people I could have had those conversations with,
Yeah. There's a good group of guys, that have connected there. And you're right. When you see, it's just an opportunity for people to connect and open up. And when you see people doing that, once they feel safe, like when people come in and they kind of thrash around and like, we're not out to get anybody. We're just here going through the same shit. And it's funny because you can see the people as they show up and disappear and comment more, they disappear for a couple of weeks and come back. And it's kind of when people are better, it's hard because sometimes when people are better is when they show up. And there's, people that are not doing well at all, and we haven't seen them in a while, and it's unfortunate. So,
and I think that's something that, you don't get to see that as much because we do have kind of the men's only section. But a lot of these conversations do happen in the public chat, which is, where the place where we invite anybody over the age of 18. That's our general rule, because we do have, topics of sexuality and that kind of stuff do come up, and we don't want to, it can get kind of hairy. But, people don't see that. They don't see that this isn't a being angry at women, being angry at trans people, being angry at whomever. Like, it's not that.
It's really
dudes
chill.
Just talking about their day.
We've talked about that before, how in the public section we've had more raucous, kind of rude, curt, short conversations than we do in the men's chat. It's kind of like, hey dude, how's your day going? Like, how did that work out with the new fish tank? It's just like, how's the divorce? Where are you? Where are you in the process? It's very friendly. It's kind of, it's not very dramatic.
No, because we're not here to start any wars or continue any gender wars or anything like that. VM is here to give guys a place to open up, because for a lot of men, and you can say this for a lot of people in general, it doesn't matter about genders when it comes to that, but either don't know how, don't have the experience, and don't have the people they can do that with in their lives, because you can't choose your family, you can't choose the people that are around you to an extent, so this is a place where people can feel free and feel open to be vulnerable when they're ready, however they're ready, and whatever they want to be vulnerable about. And I think that's incredibly important that message gets out there. So this is the end of the show. We haven't done a show with me and you, I think, just by ourselves in a long time. I think we did one a while ago.
Long time, yeah.
But it was an awesome show. Thank you for tuning in. If you support or want to support the work here we're doing with Visible Man, check us out at patreon.com/Visible Man. Keep up to date with all the great things we're doing here by going to visibleman.org. If you're watching this on YouTube, please thumbs up and subscribe. If you are listening to this, please rate, review, and subscribe. That helps other people find the show. It's the easiest way to get the word out without having to share anything or do anything. Just click that subscribe and then give us those 5 stars. If you don't like the show, just ignore what I just said there. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're pretty much everywhere with that. And as always, make sure you check out the Discord server where we have open and honest conversations about men and men's mental health daily. They're moderated, but for anybody over the age of 18, the link for that will be in the show notes and probably right here, at least written out, if that's how we do it. So is there anything else, Jeff?
No, I think you covered it.
All right, cool. Well, once again, thank you for tuning in for Visible Man. This is Jack Rollins reminding you that vulnerability is the ultimate demonstration of strength. Cheers.